graduated in 2009. We were the first graduating class to come into the new economy. The recession hit at the end of 2008. So we came into an economy thinking that there wasn't a role for us, there wasn't a place for us, and that if we wanted to have a role, we were going to be responsible for defining that on our own. And that was our mentality back then, and it's still how we operate any venture that we do today, that it's a privilege and that we have to constantly be trying to create it for ourselves, because nobody out there is just going to hand us a job.
Exactly. Well, and it's also, we wanted to make a community for other people too that had started in the same economy, the same place of automatic failure graduating from college without really a path that we had thought we were going to go down. And so through both PaperDarts and Pollen, we've been able to try to build a community for people to tell their stories and to kind of build their, to just build their ideas of what they want out of the world, either through a short story or even their framework of their organization or their community or their path.
And it's been great thinking about like this idea, like we were both English majors, and Megan was also an art major and art history major, but thinking about the role of story with that traditional background, coming into an age where like, journalism is declining, and trying to reinvent the role of journalism and storytelling for our modern age. And with PaperDarts, it's very much through a lens of fiction and poetry and interviews and creative types. And with Pollen, it's through this other lens of people who are doing really great things in the community, and it's not necessarily restricted just to arts, but it could be social change, leadership development. I mean, really, any and all story is kind of fair game from Pollen, but we've been forced to kind of evolve what that means to make it really relevant today. It's been interesting to like learn along the way how to make that relevant and engaging to a bunch of different types of audiences.
Yeah, I like the definition of leadership as helping a community become the community it wants to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting with Pollen because it gives you a space to really define a community. You know, with so many different perspectives, so many different voices, you can have one definition of the same community given by a few different people. And what does that look like? What do the stories mean after a while together?
Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of how you came, like did you always sort of have civic engagement in your mind, or did that sort of come out of the 2009 realizing like what does the community need? Does that make sense?
It's probably different for both of us. I know for me, civic engagement and graduating thinking like, oh, I'm going to go into social change and I want to like inspire, that was not part of the equation. It wasn't, I don't think I was mature enough to like think that way, or I had enough perspective to think that way. I did some volunteering when I had been in high school and like did this, abroad type of stuff, but I don't think I ever, it really didn't come out that strategically. It wasn't like I had this purpose, I was driven towards a purpose and that's what I'm going to do. It was much more reactive and trying to find a role for myself, a place that was welcoming and inviting. And for us, it ended up having, it was like so backwards. It was like, there was this nonprofit magazine that had a social mission, and that was our first introduction probably to like publishing with a social mission. We were fans of the publishing houses here in the Twin Cities, which are nonprofit publishing houses as opposed to like the random houses in New York or something. And so we were introduced because of a love of publishing and a love of storytelling. And if you have that love in the Twin Cities, it's going to be with a mission-driven organization. So it was definitely more backwards introduced to us. But I think once we got inside those organizations and realized that you could like do good and you could have social change be part of the publishing model, it was like a whole new world. So, and from there it's like stemmed on to grow to a bunch of, now we like really see the role of, the kind of the leadership and the civic engagement model, and especially from a cross-sector perspective. So what does it mean to have people who work in the private sector be engaged philanthropically and volunteering in the public and nonprofit sector? So and that's what Pollen does the best, and why we're interested in right now because it's not siloed to one sector.
Well, I just remember when we started PaperDarts, we were surrounded. We were just so young, and we were surrounded by other young people frustrated, working as waitresses, working as in offices, and they had this creative drive still to tell short stories, poetry, to paint, and I think we're interested now in translating that urge to create. We really feel like telling your stories is very creative, and it's an opportunity to really to create art. There's art in story, and even if we're working with people that are much more advanced in their career now, maybe they're anywhere from working at Target, or maybe they're working at a nonprofit in St. Paul. And I think we want them to think about storytelling as an art, and their passion we want it to come through as an art too, not just this is what I do and here's my 3-paragraph nugget. We want it to really be a deep look at what their place is in our community, rather than just a little summary.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that, like giving people that deep look. Or I think the other thing we realized, like in this process of working on PaperDarts and working in these publishing houses, where that like civic engagement started to come into play, was that there's this transformative process that happens not only when you tell a story, when your story is told, but when you read somebody else's story. There's like some ownership that's happened, or some credibility, validity that happens when you tell somebody's personal story. It's like validating their work, it's validating who they are, and even like beyond just like giving them voice, it's like they have a voice. It's just like empowering them to tell their story, and that's really transformative. And I think that's the like civic engagement part of what we do, both in Paul and PaperDarts. All of our work that really jazzes us.